Good early morning, Tim Sykes here. It is 7:45 a.m. Eastern, and this is a video to prove that the early bird catches the worm. IMTE is one of the biggest supernovas in the past few years. Went from 2 to over 40 in 2 days. Now it's coming down. There actually are shares to short. I'm not saying that it is going to be a great short right now, but over the next few days and weeks, this should pay off. So I want to do a little test here to kind of bust through a lot of assumptions. First, some people think that there are no shares to short of this. That is incorrect. Here is my Interactive Brokers account. I started the year with $1 million, so I've made a little bit. I have this account that I don't really use. I save it for really good opportunities, and I think this is a good one. Here is IMTE. I shorted 200 shares at 25.11 just now, literally just a few seconds ago. It's down 20% pre-market, so it's a little risky to short, a stock that has been basing in the 30s, and I'm shorting it in the 20s. But you have to risk a little pain in order to even find the shares to short. By the time the market opens, these shares to short at Interactive Brokers will probably be gone. Also, I don't mind taking a small position. Some people are like, Tim, you have $1 million, like short, $100,000 worth. They're like, you can afford it. I want to trade with a small account in order to teach you. You don't need $1 million account at Interactive Brokers. I have that just because, frankly, I'm bored as shit trying to, pretend to be poor and trade with a small account. But this is not a trade that I would necessarily bet big on yet. If there are shares to short at Interactive Brokers when the market does open, I don't know if there's going to be. I would love to short more in the 30s. But right now, I just shorted a little bit just because, in the next few days, if I hold this little 200 shares, I'll probably make like $5, maybe even $10 a share. So $1,000 or $2,000 on a $5,000 investment, pretty cool. So there is an opportunity to make money with a small bet. You don't need $1 million at Interactive Brokers to find shares to short of this, okay? Like Interactive Brokers, the minimum is $10,000 to open an account. If you're under the age of 26, they have a loophole. It's $3,000 to open an account. So you can have a small ass account with Interactive Brokers, and there are shares to short. And this is the kind of a play where you can make $1,000 or $2,000 on a $5,000 investment. Look at this. It's already at 24.13. So I could take profits right now of like $150 if I really, really wanted to. But I kind of want to see this thing play out. I think it'll be a good, educational lesson. I'm not even going to tell anybody that I'm short. This is going to be a blind trade because, frankly, I think when I alert everybody, everybody's like watching it nonstop and they come up with all kinds of assumptions. I want this trade to just play out naturally with no one even knowing that I'm in the stock. And I will give, more commentary throughout the trade so that you can see what a trade looks like without everyone, again, jumping to conclusions. There's so much BS and there's so many assumptions made with these kinds of stocks and these kinds of situations. I've been doing this for 2 decades, remember. I've been teaching for a decade, but I've been trading these for 2 decades. So I know what these plays are capable of. There's also a chance that this thing can keep spiking, okay? So I might, be setting myself up for a squeeze. I doubt it. It's down a little pre-market, but, it could just be because 5,500 shares are available to short. So it could just be other short sellers who are shorting it right now. And this very well could go green on the day. So I might have a potential loss here. That's another reason to keep it small for now, just in case. I can probably add to my position later. And the big drop probably won't happen. It could happen today, but it probably won't happen until next week. I fully expect this thing to go back down to the single digits. So it'll be a question of how long can I remain short? How big does my position go? And how far does this thing go down over the next few days and weeks? We'll see. I have some students who hold these things short for weeks and months. Tim Lento just passed 200,000 in profits with that strategy, and he uses Interactive Brokers too. So we'll see. I think this is a good little interesting example. So I keep an open mind. If the stock does keep climbing and I am forced to cut losses, I will. You know, you're never guaranteed profits on any trade. Any trade can go against you, but I like my odds of success here. Shorting it at 25, my goal is to cover again, make $5, maybe even $10 a share. I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. And, you know, I might average up. I might take a bigger position. We'll see. Thank you. All right, so much for my holding long term. I can't help it. I'm just a bitch when it comes to trading. The stock continues to tank pre-market. The market literally just opened for pre-market trading at most brokers at it's 8:05 a.m. So the stock is right now at 22.40. I actually just covered at 22.90. So here is my trade. I made 440 bucks in basically 10 minutes. Again, no one knew that I was in the stock, but the key to my success was shorting it before 8 a.m. Eastern. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually trade pre-market, you know, pre-market, like before even 8 a.m. Eastern. And then I covered, I didn't have to cover, I just put the order out there and I was like, well, you know, if I make my roughly 10%, I'll take it. I mean, if you can make 10% in what, like 20 minutes, I don't know. I don't know how not to take it. You know, maybe eventually I could have made 1,000 or 2,000, but again, whether I make 500 or 1,000 or 2,000, it's all meaningless to me as, you know, a multimillionaire. You have to understand that. And for somebody who's not a multimillionaire, for somebody who does just have a $5,000 account, you're in the same kind of mentality as me. It's kind of strange. Like we're very similar where $400 or $1,000 or $2,000 doesn't make a difference to me, and it makes a whole lot of difference to you. But at the same time, if you have a $5,000 account, it doesn't matter if you make 1,000 or 2,000 or 500 or 441. The key is that you're growing your small account using these kinds of trades, okay? That's what matters most. A lot of you guys get encouraged, like if you have a big profit, you're like, yeah, Tim, I nailed it. I made all this money. And then some of you guys only like took half profits where you only made like 500 instead of 1,000. And you're so discouraged because you're like, I could have made more. And it doesn't fucking matter. As long as you make a few $100s or a few $1,000s, your account is heading in the right direction. And for my purposes, I mean, this just goes to show you that this strategy works. Shorting pumped up penny stocks. Now, let me explain why I covered. First, I like taking profits, okay? If you're a student of mine long enough, you know that I take profits too quick, usually. But in this case, there's actually a little more reason to it. And by the way, it's still trading a little lower than where I covered, so I could have had a bigger profit. But because it's only a little after 8 a.m. Eastern, I'm still not sure, you know, the volume is only 12,000, right? So I'm still not sure if this is just early short sellers who are also, you know, kind of delighted to find shares to short at Interactive Brokers like I am. And they could just be pushing it down. It could just be a few early shorts. And I don't know how long A, Interactive Brokers will have shares to short, B, and I don't know how long, you know, this stock is going to continue to drop. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if this stock opens at $30 a share. And then I would be down 1,000. And again, because I'm, you know, frankly rich, and I have to talk about that because it matters as to how I trade, it doesn't matter one iota if I make or lose $1,000 in my life, okay? But I show this stuff to you because I want to show you how to make a few $100s or a few $1,000s because it will make every bit of difference to your life over time because a few $100s or a few $1,000s adds up. So let me just recap here. I could have had a bigger loss later on. It's possible. I could have had a bigger gain later on. But right now the stock is down 30% pre-market. That's near best case scenario for one day for a stock. So maybe I'm underestimating it. Maybe it'll open under $20 a share and I could have had $1,000+ profit. I don't know what's going to happen. And when I don't know what's going to happen and I've already made roughly 10% in 20 minutes, I take the single. Maybe I can get back in if the stock does spike. Maybe it'll be a good lesson for me if it drops further. But either way, I locked in my nearly 10%. I can go to the gym, work out pre-market, I don't have to sit by. I've already made what most people make, in the course of like a day, and I made it in 20 minutes. So I'm stress free. Now look at this. There are some buyers here, just proving my point. It's only 8:10 a.m. Eastern as I'm filming this. There's some dip buyers now. You might have some dip buyers that will push the stock up. Maybe there's no more shares to short at Interactive Brokers. I don't know. I don't care. I'm already out. I locked in my $400 in profits. $400 a day keeps the real job away. Or sometimes I make 1,000, or sometimes I make 2,000. But you guys have to understand that my millions have been made off the backs of small gains like this, making 5%, making 10%. All I did was use $5,000 on this trade to make $441, okay? And I did not time it perfectly. I guarantee you that, there's going to be more money to be made on this on the short side in the future. But right now, I took my single. I'm happy. I got it all on video. No one even knows that I did this trade. The volume still is only 12,000. Some of you guys are so worried, like, oh, but you need hundreds of thousands or millions of shares to trade. If you're trading with like 100 shares or 200 shares or even 1,000 shares, I mean, you can get in and out pretty easily. The reason why I say I prefer trading with hundreds of thousands or millions of shares traded on the day is just because, these stocks can move very quickly. Right now, it's not moving quickly because it's pre-market, but when the market opens, this thing will be bouncing around all over the place. And I don't know what's going to happen. This thing could go down to like $10 a share today. And some people will be like, oh, Tim, you covered it at 23-ish. You're such an idiot. I don't know, and I don't care. I have achieved not necessarily all of my goals, but I achieved enough of my goals to be happy. I did it in a rather quick period of time. I taught you a valuable lesson. I captured, my entry and my exit all, within literally 20 minutes. This video lesson is closing in on 20 minutes, and the whole trade took me less than 20 minutes. So if you can find opportunities like this, looking for giant supernovas, looking for shares to short, I got to thank one person, by the way, in my chat room. I don't even know who it was. They alerted me. Where was it? They actually said that there were shares to short. And that's the only reason I even looked. I wasn't even going to look. I was about to go work out. I have my shorts on. I have two chat rooms, the Tim Alerts and the Tim Challenge chat room. I got to thank Vicali. Vicali, one of my challenge students, shares to short on IB of IMTE. So this person, they haven't made any money yet. They're down a few thousand, but they're on the right track, okay? And understand, even if you have lost a little money, it takes a little time and effort, and the losses, as long as you manage them, are good for you because you learn what not to do. So Vicali, keep your head up. You're on the right track. I don't know if you actually shorted, with me. And again, I didn't tell anybody that I was doing this trade, but you're on the right track. You were looking for shares to short of IMTE, and I don't know whether you took them. I did. And I made a little over $400, and more important than the money that I made, I showed you a good lesson. There are shares available to short of these pumps, not always, and these crazy supernovas. Some people are like, oh, this is such a pump, it's such a manipulation. Who knows? We don't know what the cause of this is. All we know is that it happens. And there are sometimes shares to short, and it costs you nothing to look for shares to short. Okay, I might have looked for shares and come up empty, but I didn't even have to really look. One of my students in my challenge chat room alerted me, and this is part of the benefit of being in a community of traders, of real traders. You're in the chat room and you have hundreds of pairs, if not, sometimes my chat room gets over 1,000 traders, so 1,000 pairs of eyes looking for different plays and looking for different opportunities. Now, that's not to say that I would follow any other trader in a chat room, but I am always looking for ideas. And remember that 90% of traders lose money. So most of the ideas are going to suck. But if you study enough and you know the patterns and you know the potential and the opportunities, you can profit like I just did quite nicely, quite, stress-free on IMTE. Again, I was risking only, not even risking. I mean, I bet 5,000, but I risked a small amount because the odds were in my favor that this thing would keep dropping. You have the choice of whether you want to take little singles like I did, or you could be like Tim Lento. Let me just pull up Tim Lento for a second. Here is Tim Lento. Look at his profit chart, a little over 216,000 in profits. And all he does is use interactive brokers and he shorts plays exactly like this. Not necessarily stocks that go from like 2 to 40, but a lot of pumps that go from like 1 to 6 or 50 cents to like $4. And then he holds them short for, several months. So I don't know if he's shorting IMTE. It's probable, and he'll probably hold it for a week or a month and he'll probably make more money than me. So you have a choice whether you want to go short long term and you might make $250,000 within a few years like Tim Lento does, or if you like taking quick hits like I do. Leave a comment. Let me know which you prefer. Do you want to take singles and make 500 or maybe 1,000, or if you have a smaller account, maybe even 100 or 200 in a few minutes or hours or days, or do you like the idea of holding these things longer? And it's totally up to you. There's multiple options, but this was a good little opportunity, and I'm glad I could share it with you. I'll see you guys in the chat room.